Hi, I'm Nora Whittington with the Immigration Partnership of Waterloo Region. Our immigration partnership is one of approximately 80 across Canada. The goal of an immigration partnership is to ensure the successful integration of immigrants and refugees in Waterloo Region. Our goal is to look at housing, healthcare, English language, employment, and the true sense of belonging that we hope immigrants and refugees will have in our community. Our goal is to ensure that we can connect employers to immigrant and refugee talent in our region. And we partner with the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce to ensure that we can reach employers and share our message and be an ambassador for our community. We are really pleased to be able to support the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce on various initiatives, including these webinars. So welcome today.
Hello, and thank you for taking the time to invest in yourself today. I'm Julie Dupont, and it's my privilege to spend the next 30-ish minutes or so speaking with you on a topic that guides my life, which is why I'm so passionate about it, and that is the topic of personal growth. Let me ask you something. Do you believe you've reached your full potential in business and in life? When I do this in person, I assure you, no one raises their hand. Why? Because we know we all have room to grow. We're all looking to be better tomorrow than we are today. And of course, the only way to guarantee that we'll be better tomorrow than we are today is to make the conscious effort to grow ourselves daily. So before we dive into personal growth and making ourselves better, let's be clear that 30 minutes is not enough time for us to do a deep dive into all the facets of personal development. I actually did a Google search on the phrase personal growth. Guess how many entries came up? 8.3 billion entries just on personal growth. So I want to be clear with you up front that we'll not cover everything there is to know about personal growth in this short session together. With that many entries on the topic of personal growth, I think the best way for us to begin is by going straight to the top of the charts of personal growth gurus. And one of my favorites happens to be at the top of the He's written more than 100 books, some of which appear on the New York Times best-selling list, books on leadership and personal growth, and he has sold more than 26 million copies of his books. His name is Dr. John C. Maxwell, and some of you might know his work already. I'd like to introduce you to his best-selling book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth today, and that is because it is an outstanding must-have resource that I recommend you add to your library for getting you closer to reaching your full potential. So today we are going to explore two of John's 15 invaluable laws of growth, the law of pain, doesn't that sound fun? And the law of the rubber band. And these two laws are important aspects of your personal growth because the law of pain tells us that we will all experience growing pains, and how we handle life's painful moments affects our growth. And in the law of the rubber band, we'll learn that in order for you to grow to your full potential, you have to stretch beyond your current comfort zone. Stretching prepares your physical muscles and your personal growth muscles. So, are you ready to grow? Let's begin. The law of pain. It says that the good management of bad experiences not only leads to growth, but is necessary to grow. And this law, is a tough pill to swallow because pain is something we naturally avoid. But this law is about teaching you and I how to turn our bad experiences into positive steps that lead to our success. Now, we've all had bad experience and we love them, right? No one loves bad experiences. In fact, I'd argue that no one even likes them, right? John Maxwell quotes another John McDonnell, in his chapter on the law of pain. And he says, every problem introduces a person to himself. Every problem introduces a person to himself. What does this mean? Well, it means that how we deal with our problems is often more important than the problem itself. The bottom line with this law is that everyone has bad experiences and we can't avoid them. However, how we deal with our painful experiences makes a huge difference in our lives. Some people run from them, some do whatever little bit they can just to deal with them, and others take a proactive approach with the intention of using them. None of us can avoid pain, but all of us can choose how we face those situations when they come. We've all had bad experiences, and you've heard the saying that life is full of ups and downs. Well, the problem with most of us is we just want ups and ups. We do everything in our power to avoid bad situations, and yet they always find us. So the law of pain says, if you learn to manage your bad experiences well, then you get something good out of them. Plus, you have some pretty good war stories to tell. What John Maxwell finds is that those who learn to face difficult situations well are the people, the leaders, who choose to learn and grow from them. The other end of the spectrum are the people that take the shoulda, woulda, coulda path to dealing with bad experiences. And so let's consider some of the types of pain we face. In his book, John identifies 12 types, but we're just going to touch on a few here. There is the pain of incompetence, right? Not knowing something well enough, or the pain of financial loss, taking poor financial risks. The pain of not being number one, recognizing that you're not going to be the best at everything. And another type of pain is the pain of change, having to do things differently. So I mention these types of pain because they all do the same thing. They give us a choice point. They give us an opportunity to either grow and make things better, or to sit in the muck of our discontent at the way things are. We know that very few people can take positive experiences from bad ones. Many people become bitter from having bad experiences over and over. Few people become better, but I want to help you find ways to become better, not bitter. We all have pain files. We all have had our shares of failures and negative experiences, and we store our pains so we're aware of them. But we don't have to keep them in our faces, and we certainly shouldn't ignore them. We keep pain files so we can learn and grow from these experiences, so we can look back on them and use them so that we can turn our pains into gains. But how do we do that? Well, one way we do this is by choosing a positive life stance. By this, I mean we need to look for the positive lessons in every experience. There is always something positive hidden in negative situations, even though they're really hard to see at the time. But when you live your life with a positive life stance, you find that it becomes easier to see the good, even in painful situations. And the bad will not be as bad as it seemed in the moment because of your ability to see the glimmers of growth in the experience. Another way to find the positive lessons in every experience is to step back and look at it creatively. Use the gift of a bad experience to open your mind and see it as a challenge for you to manage it using your creativity. It won't be easy and it won't be comfortable, but if you approach the problem from the perspective of a chance to be creative instead of getting discouraged or angry, you'll grow. And you might be surprised at what you learn along the way. Another way to turn pain into gain is by embracing the value of your bad experiences. I'm not saying you should jump for joy every time something bad happens. What I am saying is that you have a choice about how you respond when it does. You can look at your bad life experience and be set back by it, or you can choose to learn from it. It's been said that in life there are winners and there are losers. And aside from the final score in a sporting event, I would say that for leaders, there are winners and there are learners, and you don't lose when you're learning. I want to draw your attention to the photo of bamboo on this slide, and I'd like you to be like bamboo. Here's why. It's the fastest growing plant in the world. It's extremely strong, yet flexible and highly resistant. What would it mean for you to have those qualities? What if you grew quickly, were strong and flexible and resilient? You're capable. We just need to feed the soil, or in this case, your mindset. And finally, one of the biggest rewards we get from bad experiences is making good changes after learning from the bad experience. A bend in the road is not the end of the road, unless, of course, you don't make the turn. But what happens to us is rarely the end of the road. However, many of us stay stuck in our feelings about what has happened to us rather than focus on the thoughts and actions that will lead us in a better direction. Yes, it is absolutely important to be aware of how you're feeling in the situation, but it's more important to use those feelings to move you forward. So the next time you're faced with a bad experience, check your emotions and use them to be a catalyst for change and growth. Don't let them paralyze you, but use them to move you forward positively. So let me give you one more thing to think about related to the law of pain that is directly connected to leadership, and that is how you lead from the law of pain and how you apply this specifically to your life. There are several questions you can explore, but in this time, I want to give you just a few to think about. So when you think about negative situations, how do you deal with pain? Do you do everything possible to avoid it? Or do you just endure it since you know you have to get through it anyway? Or do you work to accept it, looking to learn from it, and remaining positive despite having those bad experiences? Chances are good we've all dealt with difficult situations in various ways, and sometimes the reactions have been helpful, and sometimes they haven't. Dennis Woolley says this: expecting the world to treat you fairly just because you're a good person is a little like expecting the bull not to charge you because you're a vegetarian. Life isn't fair. What separates people who thrive from those who merely survive is how they face their problems. Some days you're the dog, and some days you're the hydrant. But by thinking about where you are on the spectrum of how you view bad experiences, you can use this information to guide you through those painful moments so you can begin to grow from those very experiences. So stepping back to get an understanding of what has happened and recognizing the emotions you're feeling in the situation is the start to creating a positive action going forward. But how do you begin to move forward from a negative situation? There can be numerous pathways you can take, of course. I'm going to offer just a few to start. So first, get input from others. What perspectives do they have about the situation, and what do they see that you don't? Of course, asking for this input only works if you're willing to listen to it and consider what they're telling you. Sometimes, though, it can be really helpful to gain a broader perspective of the situation when we hear another point of view about it. And of course, take time to understand your emotions. Do you really know what you're feeling in that moment? 85% of people actually are not aware of what they're feeling at any given time. And when something bad happens, they focus outwardly rather than inwardly. But understanding your emotions is important because it's information about what is important to you. Many times our strong emotions come from our values and whether they're being honored or ignored. So pay attention to what parts of the situation are hard for you and work through how you might restore peace to the situation. Then move forward by identifying a specific desired change you want to have. The more clarity you have around what you want, the easier it will be for you to begin making changes to the situation. So when thinking about the change you want to have, remember to start small. The lemonade starts with a single squeeze, not a gush. And so think about what positive change you can begin to influence either in yourself and or in others. But above all, remember that personal growth requires action. If you haven't been taking positive action when a bad experience happens, then you're simply avoiding. As Rick Warren would say, you are stewing without doing. Personal growth requires action, and it is as deceptively simple as that, because we know that simple doesn't mean easy. And knowing which proactive action to take is going to require good judgment, self-control, courage, and integrity. The important takeaway from the law of pain is this: don't let another painful experience go by without learning and growing from it. And I know it can be very difficult to see the opportunity in the midst of the pain, but it's there. You just have to be willing to not only look for it, but actively pursue it. So let no tear be wasted, but be intentional about how you learn from every mistake, every failure, and every negative situation you encounter. That's how leaders make the most of their growth opportunities. All right, now let's look at the second law of growth, the law of the rubber band. And the thesis for this law is growth stops when you lose the tension between where you are and where you could be. If I were to ask you, do you want to grow? I believe you would give a resounding yes. For most of us, we want to grow. But you know what's interesting? For most of us, we tend to avoid situations that make growth possible. We tend to avoid situations that make us feel uncomfortable. You see, as humans, we strive for comfort. Our comfort zone is a nice, warm, cozy place that we enjoy hanging around in. But here's the bad news: nothing grows there. John Maxwell says that true living begins at the end of our comfort zone, and we arrive there by stretching. This means that when we are in our comfort zone, we're not growing. And when we're growing, it's rarely comfortable. All right, I've got a rubber band and elastic in my hands here. If I gave you a rubber band, how many things can it be used for? So I'm going to be silent. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to write down as many uses for a rubber band as you can think of. All right, 30 seconds, go. All right, that is time. So take a look at your list. Chances are excellent that the ideas that came to mind all have something in common. What is it? Rubber bands are only useful when they are stretched. Most of the uses for a rubber band would require it to be stretched from its original shape in order to work properly. And this area, right, is the tension that is needed that allows the elastic band to serve its purpose best. For us as people, being in that state of tension is where growth happens. Of course, we shouldn't expect ourselves to hold that state forever because it's not sustainable. But when the situation calls for it, our ability to stretch, grow, and strengthen ourselves allows us to bring more value to more situations. And that is essential to our ability to lead well. You would not be where you are and who you are today without some form of tension or stretching having taken place at one time or another. Sadly, though, for many, the thought is, when I get this project done, I'll arrive and I won't have to keep stretching. Or when I get that promotion, I'll be at the top, so I won't have to keep stretching myself anymore. If we're going to be and bring our best, the truth is that we should continue stretching and growing throughout our lives. And while it's true that with growth comes discomfort and sometimes even pain at first, we also know that each time we are stretched, we look a little different, we act a little different, we become wiser, and we become more effective. So lean into it. Allow yourself to feel the tension between where you are and where you want to be, because that's where growth happens. Get out of your comfort zone. Put yourself in situations that allow you to be slightly uprooted so you can create conditions that make you stronger. Be the bamboo. Find ways to continually stretch and flex yourself, not only physically, but emotionally, intellectually, and even spiritually. Because to truly grow, you must be willing to leave behind what feels familiar, safe, and secure. And you got to be able to face courageously the tension that comes from stretching toward your potential. Believe it or not, there are benefits to experiencing this tension that I like to share with you. John Maxwell shares 7 in his books, but because of time constraints, I'm going to give you a quick overview of just a couple of them. So, a couple of the benefits of the tension. We've talked about change being a challenge because it propels us out of our place of comfort. And here's why. You can't improve and avoid change at the same time. You can't be looking over your shoulder at what was at the same time as you're looking forward at what could be. Yesterday ended last night. You need to look forward and focus on what you can do today to have a better tomorrow. Your history is not your destiny. Innovation and progress are often initiated by people who push for change. They see what's possible and they take the necessary risks to go after it. How many successful people do you know aren't restless in some kind of way? Isn't it true that successful people are always looking for more growth, more change, more opportunities? And we know that people who take risks learn more and faster than those who don't. And they grow more and faster too. To quote George Eliot, it is never too late to be what you might have been. Let me tell you, if you are still satisfied with what you did 5 years ago, you're not growing. So what does the next level look like for you? A second benefit of leaning into tension is that stretching sets you apart from others. Have you noticed that people seem to have become satisfied with mediocrity today? That they're okay with being or bringing less than their best? I find it so interesting that excellence seems to be further and further away from the accepted norms of society. But successful people, they set themselves apart from the crowd by going above and beyond what others do. They don't settle for average. They push and they strive for excellence. They stretch themselves and others to be better. And this leadership style influences others to want to be and bring their best too. A third benefit of stretching is it gives you a shot at significance. You see, if you're going to grow yourself, you must first know yourself. So what is the gap, your own personal gap between good and great? And could it be that your ability to close that gap is directly related to your willingness to be stretched? I assure you it is. Being significant is about having an impact. It's about making a difference. So let me ask you, who are you having a positive impact on today? Who is it that you have intentionally invested in today that is making a difference in their lives? People who are committed to stretching themselves will make a difference. And leaders who are committed to stretching those they serve help them make a difference too. They continually leave their comfort zone and stretch towards their capacity zone. So the bottom line on the law of the rubber band is this. Growth means that you are always looking for a better way to do what you already do. And that you're okay with being stretched out of your comfort zone because you know it will propel you into your desired future. So you can live in the land of the permissible, or you can live in the land of the possible. And the law of the rubber band is one of my favorites because as I live it out, I get better. I don't always love the pain, but the journey is always rewarding. So how do we apply this law of the rubber band to our lives? Well, again, ask and answer the following questions for yourself. In what areas of your life have you lost your stretch and have begun to settle in? Where are you falling short of your potential? What goals haven't you hit that you know you're capable of? And what habits have you formed that are preventing you from moving forward? Remember, change is the key to growth. Assess where you are and how satisfied you are with where you are, and then use any lack of satisfaction to get you started where you've stalled. Those areas of your life that you've settled in, where you need the tension to stretch and grow again, identify them so that you can start working through them. Once you've identified the changes you want to make, be strategic in setting goals that are sufficiently challenging, so not too easy, but not impossible. And working with a coach can help you figure out what that might be to help keep you sufficiently stretched and moving forward. All right, we've covered a lot in a short time, so let's quickly review. So in your day-to-day situations, whether business or personal, you're going to have painful experiences. And how you choose to deal with those experiences determines whether you positively or negatively impact your circumstances and those around you. So what I'm saying is, when life gives you lemons, remember the tension of the rubber band and use that tension to make some music. I'm not sure if you can hear that. we know we can make music with our rubber bands. But we briefly touched on 2 of John's 15 invaluable laws of growth. And if you'd like to learn more about them, you can certainly pick up John Maxwell's book and read more about the 15 invaluable laws, or perhaps you would prefer doing a deeper dive into these laws with your team so you can support each other on your growth journeys. If you decide to have your team learn about the 15 invaluable laws of growth, what would that do for the team's growth? And what about for your own? If this is something you're interested in, of course, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Here is my contact information. I hope this session added value to you today. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you to the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce for allowing me this opportunity to offer you this session. It's truly been an honor. And as I told you at the beginning, personal growth and development has really made a difference in my life. And honestly, I'm a bit of a growth junkie because of it. I love personal and professional development, and I think you will too once you start seeing a difference by applying what I've shared with you here today. So I'm going to close with this. Growth doesn't just happen. You have to be intentional about it. So go do something small that stretches you ever so slightly today, and then send me an email and tell me what happens. Thank you again so much for your attention, and I look forward to working with you.